We're good now.
Yeah. Okay. So how this is going to work is there's no video to watch. You probably see the meal planning, habit hack. Those are some things we're going to be talking about. But down below there is the comment section. And if you have a question about meal planning or how we meal plan, then you can leave that below. So real quick, Peter.
Yes.
I want to know about lunch.
What I like to eat for lunch?
Yeah.
It's funny. This is like deja vu, isn't it?
Yeah. So what's like your favorite thing to eat for lunch?
Okay. So my favorite number one
To like bring with you to work
is buckwheat pudding, also known as buckwheat cereal in the SD recipes under, I think, breakfast. And the second one is the salad with this awesome almond butter, honey, and mustard salad dressing that Sarah makes in my lunches. It's always just like a bunch of random stuff, but like sometimes she just gets the combo just right, and it is so good. So those are probably my two favorite lunches, I would say.
Yeah, it's funny because the almond butter dressing is so simple. I made it because I was like, I need something really quick that can go in his salad, and it's just honey mustard, almond butter, or not honey mustard, honey, mustard, and almond butter with a little bit of water. So it's really easy. For me, lunches are kind of like, usually I'm in the middle of a project. So I usually do, like, my favorite is just like a smoothie, and then I'll pour it into a bowl and eat it with like some buckwheat and fresh fruit. Lunches are usually pretty light for me. Like sometimes I'll just eat fruit and nuts. So yeah. Okay. So if you listen to our podcast on meal planning, then we're going to kind of go in a little bit deeper. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is lunches, because I feel like lunches are harder. And I think that's just because you have to plan ahead rather than dinner, where like you can kind of make it that night and you're at your house. Whereas if you don't prepare for lunches, then you might wake up and have nothing to eat. So when it comes to lunches, I suggest kind of making more of dinner and just kind of repurposing that. So one thing that I really like to do is to make kind of like a Mexican bean mixture. So it'll be like pinto beans, tomatoes, chilies, onions, and Mexican spices, and kind of cook that up in a skillet. And then we'll use that for dinner and have it in tacos. And then the next day, I'll put it in lunch, like over salad, and then serve it with like some tortilla chips. And that's a really great way to repurpose a dinner into a lunch.
Awesome. Yeah. I think lunches are definitely a little bit harder. Oh, Crystal might be. Sorry, we're just looking at this comment from Crystal. Doesn't seem to be working on my iPhone. I think I think if you hit play, I'm not sure if it shows up at the current time or if you have to fast forward. I know there's two options with the Google Hangout. It's kind of hard to say. I feel like we should probably just keep going.
Okay.
But yeah, lunches are difficult because like the night before, you're like the day that you want your lunch, you've got a lot going on, you've got dinner to figure out, and then once you make dinner, it's like now you're faced with lunch, and so it's just kind of tricky getting into that routine. But I really think like once you kind of get into that groove, like you can just keep that momentum going. It's not too bad. So Sarah, do you want to add anything else with lunches?
I kind of just wanted to mention, when it comes to lunches, something that's really important is to have the right containers to bring your lunch with you if you do work in a traditional office environment. So, for example, Peter and I just invested in some glass Tupperware from Costco. They sell them in big sets. I don't know if anybody else has them. But I highly recommend them because they have really large ones that are perfect for salads. But then they also have small ones, little round bowls that are really great for dressings or sauces. So I'll make a grain bowl and I'll put the sauce in there, or a salad and put the dressing in the smaller bowl. And that way it doesn't get all soggy. And it is really great for storage. In addition to those, I also recommend getting a really big lunch bag. I don't know if you guys have seen Peter's lunch bag, but it's a bag, not like a lunch box. And he got it from Whole Foods. And I don't know, I think we said that it's probably about like 5-gallon in size. What do you say to Peter?
Yeah. Yep, definitely. It's pretty good sized.
And it's just ginormous, but it's perfect because then he can bring, his juice, his smoothie, his water, his salads, and
an extra change of clothes. It's like my man bag.
Yeah, and I mean, it's actually pretty cute. It's from Whole Foods. They have them in multiple colors, and it's insulated too. So if you're worried about your food, like, not being refrigerated, it kind of keeps it cold. You can bring an ice pack if you wanted to, but you really don't have to. That's kind of the beauty of a plant-based diet, is you don't have to worry as much about the stuff going bad. Like we pretty much don't refrigerate things when we take them like on day trips or hiking. We'll bring like a ice pack, but that's really just to keep it cold.
Yep. Did you already say that a lot of times stuff doesn't actually need to be refrigerated?
Yeah.
You did. Okay.
The thing that's kind of interesting about this, if you're listening, is it's kind of distracting because like Peter will be like looking at the screen in a comment and like pointing. I'm
looking at Becca and she's like talking about lunches.
And I'm like trying to talk and he's just like pointing. And so then I'm like, oh, what is he pointing to?
Guys, I apologize. I'm so bad with multitasking. Like when I'm reading, I can't listen at the same time. It's a downside.
It's okay, babe. All right, let's keep moving on. You wanted to talk about us being all-star planners in the car.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just have to do that.
Oh yeah.
You want to talk about that?
Yes. So I feel like a lot of times our planning goes down in the car, which is kind of what we talked about in this most recent podcast, HB23, meal planning made simple. It just feels like Sarah and I we're always planning. And so with the exception of kind of like the weekends, like when we're meal planning during the week, I feel like it's going down in the car. So I think like first, like when we're kind of getting into meal planning mode, we're in the car and we're thinking, what's in our kitchen and what's not. And that gives us a good baseline as to what ingredients we should consider either not buying or definitely including. So maybe you already do this, but I know that like I didn't used to do this and I would always end up with duplicates. So pretty basic, but had to throw it out there. And then, so when we're kind of like coming up with dinner ideas for us, because we get two large CSA boxes every week, we've always got stuff going bad. So the first question we ask ourselves, like when meal planning, like on a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I think is when we usually, that's like our shopping schedule for the week. We're thinking like, okay, like do we have lettuce going bad or tomatoes or squash or radishes? I think all of us can relate to like, we've always got stuff going bad in like the bins and the drawers and like back in the corner and like, what's that leftover sauce that you made of, it's like kind of like taking into account like, okay, what do I have that I can incorporate into like my next meal?
Yeah, totally. I think one thing too is, the seasonal diet, we provide a lot of recipes and there are a lot of recipes on the internet and cookbooks. And I think kind of being okay with going a little off course with the recipe, if you have something in your fridge that might work in that recipe and just being willing to try that, because a lot of times like I think I'm a little bit better at this than Peter is, but we'll have a recipe and it will be like fennel, cranberries, macadamia nuts, and it will call for like shallots, but we already have green onions, that aren't used for anything. So it's like, well, instead of us going and buying some shallots, can we just use the green onion and can I maybe sneak in some other vegetables to that recipe because we have a bunch right now.
It's such a good point because that is something that's definitely changed in my mind because it's like you think about shallots, like regular, like white onion or yellow onion or red onion or green onion, and then you think about like leeks, and they're all kind of like same variations of like the exact same flavor. So like that's like a really good thing to keep in mind. But then also just like salad substitutions and even like you were saying for the macadamia nut fennel salad, if we didn't have cranberries, like what about like blueberries or cherries or it's like how can you just substitute it,
Yep. And same thing can go for grains too. If you already have quinoa cooked and it's getting late, but the recipe calls for rice, just using quinoa instead. These might be kind of basic, but maybe it's a good reminder for you guys.
And you can also, if there's something that's like really iffy, you could wait until the end of the recipe when you're making it. And then just like, I like doing this, doing like a little sample bite and trying it, like a little corner of like your recipe just to see if it works. And then you can commit to it. That way you don't kind of, hit yourself over the head when you're like, man, I almost didn't add that.
Let's just say Peter's a better baker than I am because when it comes to baking, if you go all in on something, like there's no going back, and he's way more cautious than I am.
It is tricky though, because I mean, once you bake it, I mean, it's done.
Yeah. Yeah.
Baking powder, baking soda specifically.
Okay, one thing that we talked a lot about in our practice episode we didn't know we were doing was eating out.
Oh yeah.
And I think that's important. So when
so like lunchtime.
Yeah.
Out, right?
So when you don't meal plan, and I know this happens to us too, not as often. We're pretty good about lunches and like having a plan. But if you don't meal plan and you find yourself eating out for lunch, I think it's important to remember that even if you are getting a salad somewhere, that the salad's not going to be as healthy as if you were to make it at home. The meal isn't going to be as healthy as if it was if you made it at home. Blah, blah, blah. And that's because restaurants, like, they are in business. It's a business. They're trying to make profit, and they want it to taste good. And so they're going to be using more sugar than you would use, say, in your salad dressing. They're going to be using vegetables that aren't as fresh because, they want to get a good deal on the vegetables. They're going to be using more oil and salt. And so, not to make you feel bad if you do eat out, but just something to keep in mind if, you're like, oh, I'm going to make my lunch, or actually I'll just get something. Like, you're way better off when it comes to reaching your health goals and really feeling your best throughout the day.
Yeah.
If you make your own lunch.
Yeah, I really feel like when you're like relying on prepackaged stuff on a regular basis, like whether it's at even if it's just like the stuff, I mean, even if it's from like, I'd say even like Whole Foods, like Salad Bar and like their kind of stuff. I mean, that is like kind of like the best, but like if you're getting for like the stuff off of like the shelves and the prepackaged stuff, like if you're eating that on a regular basis, it's just, you'll never be getting enough nutrients to like really get yourself ahead, or you'll never know how much further ahead you could have been with your health and your energy. And I mean, just like your whole body, when it's kind of like you're just missing out on that opportunity. So, I mean, you just want to do the best that you can. And it does take a little bit more work, but I mean, honestly, you're going to save some money. I mean, making food at home, like, is the best way to like save money, hands down. So,
yeah. In the podcast that we did last week, we linked a blog post that we did a few weeks ago. I was going to say a few months ago. I don't think it's been that long, on 30 healthy lunches that you can travel with. And in there, we did a little toolkit. And in the toolkit, I talked about some concepts that you can make that really make it easy. And some of those were like salads, right, for lunch. Then it was like grain bowls for lunch. Then it was oatmeal. And what we do is we just pick like 3 of those grain bowl salads and oatmeal, and we just rotate those.
We rotate them in all the ingredients.
Yep. And just keep it super simple because when it comes to lunches, you want just it to be simple. And if you can make it the night before, you're going to be better off.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point because Sarah, you and I, we're snobs. We're food snobs. We really push it, and like we are demanding with like we want it to be what we need. We want it to taste good. And so like if we're willing to say, it's just lunches, like that's probably a really good point.
Mm-hmm.
I think probably most people feel like that.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm trying to think of what other tips we can give them before we wrap up. I mean, we think about food a lot, and I think if you want to be really healthy and feel your best, you do have to think about food more than others. And some people might say, like I just don't care about food that much. But if you don't care about food that much, you're not going to be your healthiest self. We live in a world where you can't just rely on restaurants and flying by the seat of your pants to be healthy. That's just the way it is.
Yep.
It does take a little bit more work, but it doesn't have to be really hard. And once you get the hang of it, it's actually pretty easy.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Peter and I eat pretty late for dinner, but we kind of have this routine where 7:00 we make dinner. We both tag team dinner, and maybe I'll do dinner and he'll work on dishes. And then while I'm doing dinner, I'm also chopping stuff for lunches and juice. Sometimes I make juice in the morning if we have more time in the morning rather at night.
Yeah, it's kind of like a muscle, like you continue to just work it and it gets stronger. It's like your healthy eating muscle.
Yeah.
Can we get like a trademark on that? I kind of like that, healthy eating muscle.
So I think like if you combine meal planning with a schedule and a routine, you're going to be a lot more successful also.
Yep. Yeah. And never forget like why this is important to you, because for me, hands down, that's the thing that always keeps me going. And I just know that if I have crap, like my energy is going to tank and I'm going to wish that I did better, So like, I feel like you just go at it in the beginning until you're feeling good, and then you just won't want to come back down. Just always just doing your best. I feel good.
Yeah. Okay, so if you're listening right now and you have a question, drop it in the comments and we will cover it. If you think of something afterwards, that's fine too. Drop it in the comments. We're gonna try and do these all month and just kind of see. But if you hated them, then we'll stop doing them. But back to cross contamination. That's
with like the Chipotle thing.
Yeah, I mean,
that's totally ridiculous.
I mean, Peter and I don't really go to places that aren't vegan. There's a few, but we just don't really like it. Kind of funny story. We were in Seattle, and I was having dinner with 2 of my really good friends, and we were having tacos. And Peter and I do tacos pretty elaborate, so they have this huge table, probably big enough for 8 people, and it was just the 3 of us. And so we covered the whole table in just like lettuce and tomatoes, and they're not vegan, but they're pretty open, but they had some cheese they wanted to use up. And so they're like, do you mind if we grate some cheese and put it on the table? And I was like, no, of course not, And so we're all sitting, the 3 of us together, but we're kind of like putting our hands in all the food and kind of like grabbing stuff and putting it on our tacos. And my friend, she grabbed the cheese and dropped some on the way to her plate and left a little trail through the olives, through the onions, and through the lettuce. And her husband was like, "Hun, like you just got cheese all over everything, And I was like, "It's fine, guys. Like I just won't eat off that side. No big deal." Well, then her husband went and grabbed something with a spoon and just mixed it all up, all through everything. And they were like, "Oh my gosh, we're so sorry." And I was like, "You know what, guys, like that's it. I'm never eating with you guys again." And just kind of giving them a hard time. But that's just kind of how it goes. Like
Honestly,
people
yeah.
make mistakes, and like I feel like Peter and I were just outside of Chipotle the other day eating our cereal, and I was telling him that like it's just like it happens because that's not in their mind. They're not worrying about that.
Yes, yes. When you think about going to restaurants, that's just like that is not even on their radar. There's really something to be said for like if you are a vegetarian, for example, like you will strongly appreciate the vegetarian restaurants because everything in that, the whole menu is vegetarian. Everybody that works there knows that it's vegetarian. There, like you kind of reach that point, and then if you're vegan, it's it's even more so because it's like they will specify what's vegetarian, what's vegan, or you go to an all vegan place, and now it's like it's even better if you are a vegan because now it's like this whole freaking menu, like I can eat off of it. Yeah. Now for me, I have to look at pretty much all of the ingredients for every recipe because I have some crazy allergies. But even looking at the recipe or the food ingredient list, if you're at a vegetarian or vegan place, like they'll be like, yeah, no problem. If you do that at like a regular restaurant, they're like, what? Like, who looks at that? Like, do we even have that? I don't know. Let me go ask the cook if that has it in it. But like, it's just a completely different culture and mindset, when you go to those places.
Yeah. And I mean, with Peter's allergies too, like now, like when we go out to eat, like I kind of have like mini like panic attacks. Like, is there going to be something like cross-contaminated, just like a cashew in it? And so like it kind of takes the fun out of eating out when like you're worried about the ingredients. But one cool thing is if you live locally where there's like some cool restaurants and some cool people who work there, like just becoming friends with them, tipping them well, treating them well, they'll kind of look out for you. And we have a few spots like that where we live. One place I've mentioned before was Napizza in Little Italy, and like I don't know, like it's not a place that you would think it's like it has everything.
It's not vegetarian.
It's not vegetarian, but they have like vegan options, and like they're just super accommodating, and they make everything by hand. And like
one good example is that all of their salad dressings
are made by hand.
Well, wait,
are vegan?
Are they all vegan?
I don't think they're all.
I think most of them are vegan.
Yeah.
And so when I heard that, it was like, whoa.
All their soups
that's pretty rare.
Are vegan.
All their soup. Oh, that was what it is. All their soups are vegan.
But yeah, that was a little tangent. But Becca, Josh, we feel you.
Yep, absolutely.
So yeah, that is our meal planning hack. Make time for it. It's worth it. What else? I guess that's it. If you guys have any more questions, just let us know. We're doing some like lots of things on the mind. We are doing some member consultations for the next few weeks, getting some feedback from members. So we are going to be busy on the phone with you guys. And so if you signed up for one, we're really looking forward to chatting with you. And if you didn't sign up for one and you want to talk to us on the phone, shoot us an email. You can do Sarah at the Seasonal Diet, Peter at the Seasonal Diet, or just message us. We're all around.
Message us in the community.
And we would love to talk to each and every one of you.
Yes.
All right. Happy Monday. We hope you guys have a wonderful week.
Thanks, guys. See ya.
Bye.